Hey, what's going on? Keith here from Sports Vibes TV. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host and NBA analyst for the channel, Stephen Fox. Foxy, how's everything with you?
All is well. Salute to you, salute to the chat, salute to the SV Nation. Hope everyone is well. Can't wait. We're about a week or so away from training camp, and I can't wait to talk New York Knicks and NBA basketball. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm actually doing great. Honestly, I don't even want to undersell it right now. The Giants are 2-0 for the first time in forever. So for that, I'm extremely grateful and happy at this moment, especially seeing that we've got a pretty soft schedule. So who knows where this team may end up, but we're looking competitive. And as a Giants fan in the first year of a rebuild, that's pretty much all you can ask for. How's everything with you, Fox? What you up to?
Good. I'm just living a blessed life.
Good. And as we can see in the chat, everybody says the audio is good. So thank you guys for keeping us up to date as to how the audio quality is. We appreciate the support and all the help. So Foxy, we got a lot to talk about today. We're going to talk about some of the young players on the squad. We're going to see what should we expect from them in this upcoming season. But before we dive into those topics, we have to talk about some transactions that the Knicks have made in recent days. Now, the first one is we brought in Daquan Jeffries. Now, he's a player that Knicks fans should be familiar with. He was on the Summer League squad. I got to see him when I was out there in Vegas checking the team out. So, Foxy, how did you feel about this signing? Do you think he's just someone that'll be a body in camp, or do you think he's actually someone that could compete for one of the 15 roster spots?
I think actually all three of them are just bodies for the training camp. We already have a logjam. I'm like saying, where's Cam and others going to get minutes? So I think they're just going to be participating in the hard practices.
Yeah, I think so too. They brought them in just to have enough people in camp to get some solid work in during this training camp. But you mentioned the other three. The other two are going to be Ryan A. He's a guy Knicks fans should remember as well. He ended the season with the team. He was a late season pickup. He's actually Jalen Brunson's former teammate. They had some time together, so that'll be interesting to watch, seeing that he was a player that some people said was a I don't want to say a teacher's pet or anything, but he was a favorite of Tibbs. So to have him on the squad, also with Jalen Brunson, I think that is going to be something that we should watch in training camp, even though, as you mentioned, there's a lot of bodies, especially at that point guard position with Derrick Rose returning, with, the expectation that Emmanuel Quickley is going to see an extended workload this season. So where he falls into place, if he'll be here long term, it remains to be seen. I doubt it, but you can't overlook it when you see some of the connections he has with both the coach and also the new offseason acquisition. And the third player would be Svi McCollum. I think I'm saying it right. I hope I'm not butchering his name. Foxy, how do you feel about him?
Again, his career last year, I think he shot around 30%. He's just a league average 3-point shooter. He's been around a few teams now, played well in the FIBA. So I think that's what got him an invite. With Fournier and everybody there, I just don't know if there's any room for him other than just being in practice and having an extra body there.
Yeah,
it's partially guaranteed the contract.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they call him the Ukrainian sharpshooter, I believe, is one of his nicknames. I know there was a season where he did shoot 40% from three. So to have another guard in that can knock down the three, play some solid ball out there on the court, I think it'll be interesting. It'll help keep it competitive at practice. Let's see what else we got going on. Adele Chapman, salute. He says they're here to keep Keel's company, so they'll be warming up the end of the bench. Sincere the genius, thank you for pulling up. Says salute family. D. Burr says I just hope they are exciting, competitive, and shows hope for the near future. And I'm assuming that's discussing the Giants. What else we got? Who else we have in chat? Big Chino says Inglewood, Los Angeles. We in the building. Knicks Nation. Who's cooking? Homies. Salute. Thank you for tuning in all the way out from Los Angeles. That's one of the cities I do have to visit. It is on my bucket list, but thank you for tuning in. Fox, anybody in chat you want to give a shout out to? We got 39 viewers already, only 8 likes. Do us a solid, y'all. Smash that like button. We greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, you mentioned Adele. Just wanted to shout out that his little princess Avery just turned 4 months, so that's an awful special. So Canal, like you said, salute to you, Canal. We have the best mods on the planet. And DBR, hope all is well. It's been a minute or so, but it's good to see you. I've seen you in the replay gang on the comments, and just looking forward to chopping it up with the SV Nation tonight.
Yep, and got to give a quick correction. D. Burr says no, that it was actually for the young core of the Knicks. His previous comment about them being exciting, competitive, and show hope for the near future. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm hoping for as well. You know, we had a rough season last year, and I think this season, bringing in Jalen Brunson, bringing in a guy like Ihart, I think it's going to give some of these young guys a better environment to kind of thrive. And I expect them to see them competitive night in and night out, especially in what is going to be a very difficult Eastern Conference. You know, the tables have turned, you know, throughout my fandom. For the most part, the Western Conference have been, you know, the bullies on the block. And now you're starting to see that power shift is starting to change or go towards the Eastern Conference now. So things are going to be extremely difficult for us. But as long as this team is competitive night in, night out, and we're not obviously being out-coached, you know, that's all you can ask for, I think, in a season. What about you, Foxy? What are you expecting in the season overall?
Yeah, just like you said, I just want New York Knicks basketball. I want good ball movement. I want good player movement. Nobody standing around. Everybody continues their rotations. I want good New York physical, hard-nosed defense, diving for loose balls, you know, taking charges, you know, making every foul count. I just, you know, when you don't have the elite talent some other teams have, you got to play physical. And we're New York boys, so we don't mind that. So, yeah, we just want them to come out. We don't want to have one post-press conference this year where Tibbs says the energy wasn't there. So that's what I'm looking for.
Facts. We need to see that hustle at New York Mind State. You know, diving like on loose balls, like you said, not letting other teams outwork you, because I know a lot of fans are excited about the talent on this team. But if you look at the team from top to bottom, we just don't stack up, I think, with the elite talent that some of the other teams have. So that doesn't mean that we're going to be out of every game we play. All it means is we're going to have to work our butts off and out hustle other teams in order to get these victories. And we've seen it, you know, done before. We saw it 2 years ago when we ended up as the 4th seed in the Eastern Conference. So that's the blueprint I'm going to be looking for this season, and that's what I'm going to expect from this team night and night, and that grit, that grind, and that hard work. So Foxy, with that being said, let's jump into today's topics, and we want to see what some of these young guys are going to do in 2022, 2023. And this team is, you know, where we go, where our ceiling is going to be determined by what we see from some of these young guys. So one of the first young guys we're going to get into is going to be Mitchell Robinson. Now, Mitchell Robinson, he signed a large 4-year deal this offseason to be the starting center for the New York Knicks. I think in the first season, it's going to be making right around $17 million a season in a descending contract. So I wanted to pull up some other players and see how Mitchell Robinson matched up in his first 4 years in the NBA, and also what we could expect from him in year 5. So Foxy, I'm going to put on screen one of the guys that gets compared to Mitchell Robinson a lot, and that's going to be Rudy Gobert. So Foxy, you can see in year 5, these are the projections for Mitchell Robinson. But if you compare it to Rudy Gobert in year 5, I don't think there's that much of a drop off. So what are you seeing from Mitchell Robinson throughout the first 4 years of his career? And do you think in year 5 you can see him put up a similar stat line from what we saw in Rudy Gobert? And there's also a lot of parallels too. You look at where Mitchell Robinson was drafted, 2nd round pick, 6th pick in that round, and where Rudy Gobert was drafted a late 1st round pick. It's not too far off. So what are some of the things you're going to be looking for from Mitchell Robinson this season, and any comparisons you link to Rudy Gobert?
Yeah, again, you touched on it earlier. I want to see stamina. That I want to see Mitch be able to, you know, play more than 25 minutes like he did last year. We talked about last stream where he came in a little bulked up and had to lose weight during the season to get back some of that bounce and some of that mobility at the perimeter. So, you know, I really am happy. You look around the league, you know, he's a valuable guy, Mitch. So we're coming to the point, though, in this 5th season that this is, you know, from a development standpoint, maybe who we got. We may not ever see any offensive game out of him other than putbacks. But I think, you know, he played really without a point guard. and RJ was the only one feeding him. So I think that between Jalen Brunson and RJ, and hopefully, like we just talked about, good team, that he'll get a lot more opportunities. We know he's an elite offensive rebounder, but with Jalen getting to the hole, RJ getting to the hole and dumping off for Lob City. So I could see him absolutely hitting not only Gobert's numbers, in his fourth or fifth season, but doing better than that. So we extrapolated, the Basketball Reference, their data analytics team, projected per 36. So thank God I took algebra. So I extrapolated for different players that you'll see tonight So for 30 minutes, his numbers are there. And the big thing that we've talked about last week, and the big difference this year, folks, is going to be, if we're going to do anything, it's going to come to foul shooting across so many different players. And, one of the key facts is that last season we were 26th in the league in foul total percentage with 74.4%. When the Knicks made the playoffs 2 seasons ago, we were 14th in the league in foul total percentage at 78.4%. That's the difference between winning and losing games. So you can see that just Gobert in his 5th season shooting 68%, and they're projecting 52%. So we saw him taking some shots, and we kidded around that he was just doing it rapid fire. He wasn't, setting himself. But if Mitch and the rest of this team can shoot foul shots, we'll be a much better team, have a much better record. We can't be, have a record be 26th in the league again, foul total, and expect us to be a better team than we were last year.
Yeah, I agree with you, Foxy. I think Jalen Brunson is going to be a major addition for Mitchell Robinson. And not only as Mitchell Robinson when he starts to roll to the basket, but also we saw some footage of Mitchell Robinson working on a mid-range jump shot, and he got to that spot on the court after faking a dribble handoff. So I think the attention that Jalen Brunson is going to attract, I think is going to help Mitchell Robinson not only as a roller, but also trying to get to that spot on the court if he's able to get the green light to start shooting some mid-range jump shots. And I think that's going to be very important for Mitchell Robinson to see those 30 minutes per game out there, because we know that we brought in iHeart, and he's a guy that's going to stretch the floor a lot better than Mitchell Robinson. So to see Mitchell Robinson in the offseason start to work on a jump shot, I think that's encouraging. I know some Knicks fans weren't too enthusiastic about it, seeing that, he's not going to use that in game. But to me personally, I'm looking at it and I'm like, all right, he's knocking down those mid-range jump shots, nothing but net. I'm not too concerned about him getting or taking a dribble to get into that jump shot. If he's able to knock that down, even on a catch and shoot basis, I think that's going to elevate his offensive game dramatically, because now you're going to have defenders that are going to have to stay on him and not allow him to get that mid-range shot, but still he can threaten defenses with his vertical jumping ability on alley-oops and things of that nature. So I think that's going to be a real interesting wrinkle if Tom Thibodeau allows him to be creative out there on the court just a little bit, not too crazy. Don't take the reins off too much and allow him to go out there and try to act like he's a perimeter scorer or anything of that nature. But if he's given the opportunity, like we saw last season when he did that same fake and was able to take a couple dribbles and throw down a dunk, I think if he's able to use that mid-range jump shot a lot more, then he's going to be able to get those 30 minutes per game with an increase in his stamina and conditioning. And I think that is going to be key in Mitchell Robinson's development out there. He needs to continue playing time, because we know he did miss a large portion of time dealing with that Jones fracture. And, you hope that the injury concerns are past him. And now you look at players like a Rudy Gobert. There's another player we can look at, and also Clint Capella, another big man who draws some comparisons to a Mitchell Robinson, similar style. So Foxy, anything you want to mention about Capella and how his career trajectory can compare to what we've seen from Mitchell Robinson so far?
Yeah, we just mentioned it, that him playing with a better cast of players gave him more opportunities. So when you see those inflated offensive numbers, it's because they had to drop off, and, he was in a dunker spot and he was able to do that. And you can see here, folks, obviously you don't see on Mitch any 3-point shots, but, You can see that by his 5th season, he's up in the 60s, Capella on his foul shots. But if you just look, Mitch is there. If he can hit, and it was funny on the last point that we've talked about in the past that he may shoot, 52% from the foul line or, say 50% from the foul line. But if he did a pick and pop and hit 50% from the foul line, we'd be ecstatic. So we may be harsh on him for the foul shots, but it also, like you said, it keeps him honest. So I think with, like we said, with Jalen there and Mitch and just others that he's going to have a much bigger smile on his face, and I think his numbers are going to be comparable. I definitely think that with Jalen, and this is an extrapolation, but I think in the reality, if you think about his putbacks and everything else, I think Mitch could definitely have a double-double, average a double-double this year.
Yeah, I think that's definitely well within his reach, especially when you look at the squad and think rebounding, might not necessarily be our strong suit. So you would hope guys like Mitchell Robinson and Julius Randle and even Obi Toppin can kind of, carry the torch in those statistical areas. Even RJ Barrett for a guard, if you want to call him that, is a solid rebounder. Another player that a lot of people compare Mitchell Robinson to would be Robert Williams. And I think this is probably the best comparison when you look at what these guys can do out there on the court, how they can be disruptive defensively. I talked with Jesco. He's a subscriber here on Sports Vibes TV. He's mentioned, Williams is a much better perimeter defender than Mitchell Robinson. But I think Mitchell Robinson at times is more disruptive than a Robert Williams, whether that be his length, that even though he doesn't get the block shots, he's still forcing players to adjust their shots, which causes lower percentage, shots being put up, or whether it's playing the passing lanes and getting, block shots at the rim. So, or even blocking jump shooters. We've seen Mitch do that occasionally, being able to get from the paint and block people that were going up for shots. He did it to KD, if I'm not mistaken. So, Foxy, what are some things you've seen in Robert Williams that you expect Mitch Robinson's to either match or better?
Like we said, he plays on a good team. We want to see better screens set by Mitch this year. Want him to set those screens a little better and on the roll, on pick and roll. And you can see again, and I hate repeating myself, but the numbers don't lie. It jumps off the screen that, it's an asterisk at 5 years because he's coming into his 5th year too, Williams, unlike Gobert and Capella, who's been in the league a few more years. Also, folks, if it's in green that you saw in his 2nd year, that's in green means he led the league in that year in field goal percentage. That if we can just have Mitch shoot, in the 60s and stuff like that, it'll make it, make him and everybody else a lot better. Hey, folks, I just wanted to share this, and it's important for all of our players that we understand that last year the standard from shooting. So we know the gold standard's 50, 40, 90, 50% field goal percentage, 40 from 3 and 90 from the foul line. Last year, the league average in field goal percentage was 46.1%. So that's, Mitch, obviously it's not an issue because everything's a dunk. But when we're talking today, so I want you to, for this in the season going forward, so when we see players at 39 and 40%, they're 6% less than the league average. So we want them we want them to be elite at the 50, 40, 90 club, but we also don't want them to be less than average. So they're 46.1% is the average from field goal percentage, 35.4% is 3-point. For non-corner, it's 39.2. If you're looking at the basket, left corner is 39.2. If you're looking at the right corner, it's 38.4. And foul total average, again, this is league average, is 77.5. So that's where all these players, you just signed a $60 million contract. We're not asking you to shoot 90%, but we'd like a 7. We're paying you, at least a 6, but if Robert Williams has a 7 there on his foul shooting, we're not asking a lot to say, hey, you just signed a big contract. We want you to put in that time because either that or you're not, hey, Mitch, you're not going to see closing time. Ihart's going to be the closer because he can hit foul shots at a higher rate than you and stretch the floor, and he's still a rim protector. So I hope some of that competition, behind him will make him, shoot 1,000 foul shots a day and bring up that foul total percentage to at least 70s.
I hear you on that one, Foxy. Let's jump into the chat, see what some people have to say. Splashing 12676 says, can't wait to see some games. That's facts. Want to see how this team is going to look out there on the court. Do we change anything up offensively? Be a little bit more creative. Like defensively, I'm not too concerned. I know everybody has issues with Jalen Brunson, but defensively, I think we'll be a solid squad. It's offensively, I'm really interested in seeing how we look, how Brunson and Randall coexist on the court, how RJ Barrett is going to look entering year 4 after signing a big deal, how some of these younger guys that we're going to talk about later on in the show, like Obi and Quickley, how they're going to perform, knowing that they were in, trade talks this past off season. So I'm extremely excited to see how this team looks. And, I'm excited. I'm happy with the way some of the things have gone, but in other regards, I'm kind of disappointed, especially when it comes to the trade talks, but we're off that. Anybody you want to shout out, Foxy?
Yeah, sure. Angel Torres. Hey folks, Hurricane Fiona, there's a blackout in Puerto Rico. I have lots of friends and, people I care about in the Puerto Rican area, in Puerto Rico. So do me a favor. Let's say prayers that, that storm can get away, their power could come back on, and everyone is safe. But we're sending out prayers to Puerto Rico and all our friends and people's families. Sincere, the genius. Just shout out to you and your family, Mike Johnson, Treasure Dem Music, Ran Rock. I saw my friend Warren Franklin, CWC, Charlie Ward's cousin. Salute. Hey man, hope all is well. John Talento, one of the legends in the Knicks fandom. Hope all is well with you and your family. Connor Tulin, and like we said, we'll catch up a lot of you as the show goes on. But at this moment, we do ask a favor that we have 87 in the chat and we have 27 likes. So do us a solid. Please hit that like. If you have subscribed, thank you so much. Please tell a friend to tell a friend if you haven't subscribed. As we say, it's the one-stop shop for Knicks news, rumors, and analysis. We work hard, you can see from the content and everything, to make it enlightening, sometimes controversial, but always entertaining. So please turn on that all reminder bell so you don't miss out on any of the wonderful content from Sports 5 TV. Please share the link on your favorite social media platforms. Shout out to the replay gang. If you can't catch it live, we answer every comment, and we appreciate and we love our relationship that we have with you. And again, last but not least, shout out to the best mods on the planet. We appreciate all you do.
Thank you for that, Foxy. Also, we have a pretty interesting comment from 90s Knicks. He says, I heard the starting 5 is going to be Brunson, Barrett, Randall, Obi, Mitch. Randall slimmed down a lot. What do you think? I don't know if we'd go with that lineup, honestly, because you look at Randall, you look at Obi. I don't know if either one of those guys are good enough as perimeter defenders to put one of them at the 3. That would be my biggest issue. Offensively, you would hope Obi's 3-point shooting has gotten to a point where you can have him out there on the court together with Julius Randle, especially with Mitch, who has yet to show us anything from 3-point range. So offensively, you'd have those type of issues with the spacing, and then defensively, you would have the teams attacking either Obi or Julius Randle out there on the perimeter. So I think that might be one thing that kind of prevents us from putting that type of lineup out there on the court together.
I agree. I used the football analogy a couple of weeks ago that wings are like guys that just run 4-2, and you want corners on them. You don't want linebackers, and Randall even slimmed down as a linebacker. And so you're asking, and Obi is incredibly gifted vertically, but he's not gifted laterally. So I think they would just, we went through the issues last year with Fournier and stuff. We don't want to put those. We want to put them in situations, optimal situations for success. We don't want them getting down on themselves because they're getting lit up. They just can't handle the speed of NBA wings. So I think they're 4s, and I think we're better off in lineups where one of them is at the 5 rather than them being at the 3. Small ball.
Also, I want to give a shout out to Amari Belgrave because he says I'll go JB, RJ, and Cam. And honestly, I agree with him, and that leads us right into the next player we're going to be discussing, and that's going to be Cam Reddish. Now, what are we going to get, or what should we expect from Cam Reddish in year 4? Now, one of the comparisons a lot of people like to point to is Paul George, and I think that's a solid comparison, especially if you look at his career trajectory, because I'm interested in seeing how Cam and RJ Barrett look together on the court at the same time. They were just in Duke recently, I think, together, working out also with Trevor Keels, I guess getting their chemistry together, trying to build upon the bond that they built in college. And you look at what PG 13 was able to do with Danny Granger during his stint in Indiana, and I think you can see similar success from RJ and Cam Reddish out there on the court together. It's all going to be up to Tom Thibodeau giving Cam an opportunity to show that he deserves to be the starting 3 next to RJ Barrett. So Foxy, when you compare Cam Reddish to a PG 13, what are some of the similarities you see in their game, and also when it comes to the career trajectory, is there anything you saw from Paul George in year 3 or year 4 that kind of gives you some faith in Cam this season?
Just my heart goes out to Cam. It again, so many of the players that we'll discuss tonight, it's just really frustrating for a front office. Why do you send out a first-round draft choice and a former first-round draft choice in Knox, and then only play him 20 minutes? And folks, again, I extrapolated. I have 16 minutes down there for playing, because the reality is that the 1, 3, and 4, I don't see Brunson, I don't see RJ, and I don't see Randall playing less than 32 minutes. So that means either Cam's going to play 16 minutes or he's going to play 8 minutes if he wants to throw Fournier in. So it's lunacy. So I absolutely, and the thing that got me going was a couple of things that came out and that said that his rehab went well. And the people that had seen him in off-season workouts said meaning Cam looks phenomenal. So that's something that's music to our ears. But the most important thing is, I think, a shout out to Mark Berman, that he talked to a scout, and the scout made a comment to the effect that if he's going to get on the court, let me see if I have that here. If he's going to get on the court, Tibbs is all about defense. So so if he's going to get a starting in training camp and everything, PG-13 made his name on defense. So both of them had the prototype size, 6'8", 7 foot plus wingspans. So what we'll see is, and we touched on this last week on a couple of other streams, that his shooting. You can see just field goal percentage. We're not talking threes, just, high percentage shots. PG-13 hits those. So those are the areas he's a great foul shooter, Cam. So if he can get the minutes, if he can bring up those field goal attempts, but also those field goal attempts would go up dramatically. I think he'd be a monster in transition, this team. So I would love a starting lineup of Jalen, RJ, Cam, Randall, and Mitch. So hopefully we can get those minutes up for him. And but as you can see, he was playing PG-13, or Paul George was playing 36 minutes. He played 37 in his year 3 and 36 in year 4. And poor Cam is in, purgatory with Tibbs.
Yeah, he's going in the wrong direction.
Wrong direction.
And I hear
what?
Go ahead, Bob.
And the thing that upsets me the most is that we talk about development, and the only way you can develop, and I always use this term as muscle memory, is that you can't learn it in practice, you can't learn in summer league or exhibition games, the speed, the physicality of a real NBA game. You have to have minutes in that for that muscle memory to take effect. You're killing these young players by underplaying them, and you don't know what you have.
Yeah, I hear the Berman quote on having to play defense, but if you look at the options we have at the 2, I would say Cam is probably top 2 defenders. And if you look at the options at the 3, Cam is probably the top 2 defenders if you want to give RJ the bump over him. And we had Evan Fournier starting last year, and Evan Fournier is terrible on defense. So Tibbs can't look at Cam and say he's not thrilled with the way he plays defense. Meanwhile, we had Evan Fournier out there playing. How many games did he play? 78, 79 games? And he was out there playing.
Yeah, Fournier played 80 games, actually.
80 games, yeah. And he wasn't playing defense in any of them. So I think Cam should be given every opportunity to earn that starting spot, most likely at the 3. And if in training camp he's beat out by an Evan Fournier, if he's beat out by Quentin Grimes, then you say, all right, Cam, you were given an opportunity. But it just doesn't seem like Tibbs has any type of plans to put him or get him involved in any way that might be beneficial to him long term or beneficial to the team long term, because I think Cam could be a special player. You look at what the Golden State Warriors were able to do, and they had a key guy on their squad by the name of Andrew Wiggins. And I think if you look at Andrew Wiggins, he was a guy that didn't come out the gates, extremely quick. He was a first overall pick, but he was stuck in Cleveland for some time. So I mean, did they trade Wiggins immediately as soon as they drafted him?
I think they traded him immediately.
Yeah, for love.
I think his first coach was Flip Saunders, and I think Sam Mitchell, and then Tibbs was his coach for year 3 and 4.
Yeah, so you look at Andrew Wiggins, a player who didn't get a quick start heading into the league, and I think Cam Reddish could develop into an Andrew Wiggins type, which would be a solid wing player that could be on a championship roster. So me personally, I think if you look at what Wiggins has done throughout his career, I think Cam could be just as good, if not better. I think Cam has more natural talent than Andrew Wiggins. So I think Tibbs should be putting Cam in every position to succeed. The Knicks went out there and made a trade for Cam, I believe, for a reason. And I think the reason was to see what he can be on this squad next to an RJ Barrett. So now it's up to Tibbs to put him in a position to either sink or swim, honestly.
Yeah, and I think it's up to the front office. They have to get rid of some of these guys before, whether Fournier, IQ, Grimes, somebody is going to have to get hit with minutes. You can't do that because do you see Tibbs going to a 12-man rotation?
No. I see, me personally, I would want him to get Evan Fournier out of the rotation. I don't see any benefit in continuing to play Evan Fournier, increase the minutes. Honestly, I know Evan Fournier is a snipe shooter. A sharp shooter. He's a sniper. He can knock down the 3. But outside of that, I don't think he's really giving us anything. And if you look at what Cam can do out there on the court, Cam can create off the dribble for himself. He can create for others. He can knock down the 3. He can play defense. He's got a better body build than an Evan Fournier when it comes to playing that 3 and the guarding some of the wings out here in this league. So me personally, even though Tibbs doesn't open up to a 12-man rotation, I still think Cam is a better fit in a 9-man rotation than an Evan Fournier. So that's how I would view it.
Yeah, the thing that you and I talked about off the air, that I don't care how much of a sharpshooter he is, statistically, the Knicks were 6.71 points better with him off the court. So, so if you're not, sharpshooter doesn't mean anything if you're giving up more points than you're scoring. So, yeah. And folks, just the reality, if we just take a step back, we like Grimes. He's 6'3" and change in his bare feet. I don't like, that's not a wing to me. Cam is a wing. In today's game, man, you got to have those guys, 6'7" at a minimum, or even if you're 6'6", but you got to have that 7-foot wingspan and stuff. Grimes doesn't have that. So, Grimes is a really good 2. But I think it's pushing him to think that, so if RG's at the 3, who else is a real wing on this team? The only answer, folks, is Cam. So give him a shot. It'd be crazy for them not to give him a shot and then say, hey, we gave him a shot. The biggest thing with him and Mitch that we just talked about was Hail Mary full of grace. Let them both be healthy, that they've had, things in their career. So hopefully Cam can stay healthy this year. We talked about it last week that, the games played over since he came into the league is concerning. But, thank you. That's a great example that is very close, Cam and Wiggins. The only difference is a little more higher percentage shots in the paint. But am I wrong? That's pretty darn close, man.
Mm-hmm. Extremely similar. And that's why I think Cam could be our Andrew Wiggins. And like I said earlier, I think he could even be better than Andrew Wiggins. He just has to be given the opportunity. In football, they say you got to be given the reps. You, like you say, Foxy, the muscle memory. You have to be out there on the court not only to get yourself in a groove, but also to find some rhythm and some chemistry with your teammates. You know, Cam was traded to this team in the middle of the season, you know, so he really didn't he didn't have a training camp with a lot of these guys to find out where they like the ball or where he likes the ball and things like that. And then when he got here, he got injured, and it kind of threw things through a loop. But even before the injury, it didn't really seem like there was a plan. You look at the minutes per game, he only averaged, 16 minutes per game during his one season with us. You trade a first round pick for a guy and you only play him 16 minutes per game. To me, that makes 14 minutes per game. That doesn't make any sense. Like, I mean,
the front office said, yeah, we got a great player, and Tip's like, I'm glad, but I'll play who I want.
Exactly.
And that's like a disconnect, and it's like, what the hell are you doing, man?
It's ridiculous.
Hey, but we do have something, and I'm not putting out any negativity as much as a reality that we've talked about. We have a brutal opening schedule. Folks, if we have a 7-game losing streak early in this thing, it may be Johnny Bryan saying, hey, I want to play Cam.
Hey, he better if he's going to be there. If he's given the opportunity and given the reins, he should go full on rebuild and embrace the youth and get those guys in there, especially Cam. This is a career year for Cam. Either you hit free agency playing well and secure yourself a large contract, or you have a rough season and you hit free agency and not know where your future lies in the NBA. And I think that's enough motivation for Cam to come into camp and come into this season, with the intent to put his best foot forward. So now it's going to be up to the coaching staff to find ways to get Cam in positions where he's able to use his strengths to his fullest capabilities. And I think, with a guy like Tibbs, is it likely? No, but just because it isn't likely doesn't mean we have to sit up here and lie to you. This is what the Knicks should be doing, and it's all up to the front office to kind of force Tibbs' hand if he doesn't want to do it voluntarily.
Why would you trade for a guy that you're only going to play 14 minutes? Like we said, if RJ's playing the 3, he's going to play at least 32 minutes. So just there at 16, he plays any more than that. What the hell did you do the trade in the first place for then? Like we said, in a perfect world, we wanted RJ at the 2 and Cam at the 3. And then we're saying, RJ is not going to be exhausted trying to cover, those bigger guys. He's a lot more athletic, Cam, than RJ. It'd be a much natural fit for our 2-3 to be RJ and Cam. So we got to say prayers. But like we just said, so if RJ's playing playing the 3 at 32 minutes, who else is, nobody's going to get Cam can't get the minutes for him to show what he can, and if he has Grimes at the 2, I don't think he's going to play Cam at the 2.
Yeah.
Because he has his favorite IQ there. Mm-hmm. He has, you have Grimes, you have IQ, he has Fournier. It's a logjam. They have to alleviate that.
Yeah. Honestly, if you see Grimes start at the 2, it'll be a bad omen for Cam Reddish. Because honestly, I don't see him giving Cam too many minutes at the 2. Like you said, Quick is there. And then you didn't mention Derrick Rose, because even if, you had Grimes starting, there would still be some minutes for Cam to play if Derrick Rose wasn't backing up Jalen Brunson at the 1. So now that kind of forces Emmanuel Quickley to get his minutes over there at the 2. And that's where it throws everything into a logjam. Now, ideally, I would have it with Jalen Brunson at the 1. You would have RJ at the 2, Cam at the 3, and then you would have Quick coming off the bench at the 1. You'd have Grimes coming off the bench at the 2. And then you wouldn't even have to bring Fournier in. You could kind of move RJ down to the 3 and kind of use that to give a breather. And then you can kind of toggle between RJ and Cam at the 3 with Quentin Grimes there at the 2. I think that would probably be the best way I would distribute the minutes, because I think they should move on from Evan Fournier and kind of get some assets for him in return. So I think if they were able to do that, that would be a way that we can kind of set the rotation up where we can still get Cam an opportunity to get minutes. We can still get Grimes in there. We won't have to disrupt RJ's minute distribution too much, and then we would still have Quick in the equation. So that's how I would try to set it up.
I second the motion, counselor. I love how you're thinking.
Yeah, and before we wrap up with Cam, there's another player we wanted to compare him to, and that would be Mikal Bridges. Now, Bridges is a player we actually could have drafted, but we ended up going in another route. What are some things? And actually, you can see these guys were both drafted, same pick, same round. So, what are some comparisons you've seen between Mikal Bridges and his time in the league and to Cam as a player?
I love Mikal Bridges. He's a blink away from 50, 40, 90 every year. And he's an unbelievable defender, long wingspan. So you could just see that obviously they're both really good foul shooters. But from the field goal percentage, you can see that he kills from inside the arc. He's not only hitting from 3 points. So, yeah, it bothers me. A lot of people, hey, we could have had Shea, and Shea's great. And, Miles Bridges. The pick I think we really missed out on was Mikal Bridges, man. So you can see that, again, it's very similar. You can see Cam's a little heavier on the three, but Mikal a little bit higher percentage shots in that paint. So those are the things that we would love. Cam is like, don't settle for that. Use that incredible, effortless, fluid athleticism to get pull up middies, and he's a great foul shooter. Worst case scenario, get fouled, but it's a higher percentage shot. Look at Mikal. That's a nice person to emulate.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see Cam be given an opportunity. So maybe he could be our version of Mikal. I think you look at Cam, his ceiling might be an Andrew Wiggins type, but even if he doesn't reach that type of level, I think Mikal Bridges is a nice measuring stick as well in terms of his development moving forward. So let's jump.
Yeah, but
go ahead.
So much of the development of these guys that we're seeing is that they played 30 some odd minutes. So they got better, but through the minutes they learned, you got to learn to be able to have a coach that you play through your mistakes, not have a coach like, we experienced with Knox a few years ago, and we experienced with Obi that they're playing with a look on their face like, shit, if I make a mistake, but Tibbs is going to pull me. You can't have kids play like that. You got to let them play through mistakes. That's part of the learning curve, man. And those 30 minutes. So each and one of these guys were like saying, yeah, but Cam, like you said, was an unfortunate injury. But even if he didn't have the injury, my gut, do you agree? Is like, even if he wasn't injured, we'd still be looking at ourselves right now and saying, man, Tibbs should have played him more last year.
Facts. Let's jump into the chat, see what's going on. Lex the Destroyer, salute. He says Brunson, RJ, Cam, Obi, Mitch. That'd be my ideal starting lineup. You get Cam in the starting lineup. You have Randall. I guess he's going to the bench, or he'd have to be shipped out of town, right? I don't see Julius Randle in his demeanor accepting a bench role. You think Randall would A-OK that?
If we thought we displayed bad behavior last year, that's all we have to see to trigger it. That's a real trigger. So I'm thinking positive. Randall, he's an excellent player. So hopefully with Brunson and others, but you pull shit like that, yeah, you don't be surprised what happens. So
D. Burr says keep Rose. We need a veteran presence that contributes. I mean, I guess that is a role for Derrick Rose, but I don't think if we were to move on from Derrick Rose, this team would, the wheels would fall off. I think Derrick Rose is a solid player and a solid vet, and I'm sure he's a good locker room presence. But I don't think if we move on from him that I think the locker room is going to suffer too much.
I'm with you. I like to have some vets around, but the reality is that our vet going forward, if Rose won't be here next year, it's Jalen who's going to be the leader in this, the quiet leader, just like D Rose. So I like to have a vet or two around. We don't have Taj this year. We don't have Burke. So, we're pretty limited, but, I wouldn't mind if we moved on either. So, hey, a quick shout out in the chat to Hardwill. And Hardwill, if you haven't subscribed to For the Love of the Game, the number 4, OUR, the love of the game, with my friend Lawrence Mayberry, chef. Just a real quick shout out for Hardwill folks. If you watch the documentary Point God of New York, Hardwill played against all of those, and even more than that, a lot of you know that he's a coach, a trainer, and a mentor to a lot of young men. And one of his young men that is Stephon Castle, who's number 23 on the ESPN 100 list. So shout out to our friend Hardwill for the wonderful job. I know it's one of first of many players that he's going to be sending to big time schools. He's a 6'8" guard. I believe he's going to UConn. So congratulations, Hardwill. I know many players. And again, folks, please subscribe. Hardwill and Elle have fantastic takes on For the Love of the Game, and they're really good people.
Right. Salute to Hardwill. Keep up the good work. Let's see what else we got going on. Parrish Duggar says the biggest mistake is to think last year matters this year. Guys know they were failures last year and will want to change that narrative. Well, there's no bigger example of last year doesn't translate to success the following year than looking at what we did 2 years ago and compared to what we did last year. You know, we thought we were going to be a team that just came off of the 4th seed, and we really didn't play up to expectations last season. So hopefully we will be able to flip the script once again and be a lot more competitive in 2022, 2023. Let's see what else we got going on.
Danny Landis, I hope all is well with you and your son and the family.
Yep, salute to Danny Landis. He says Tibbs only said so to get past the interview. Only time will tell. I wonder what that's discussing. Let's see. Cabal Salute says RJ can play 20 minutes at small forward and 14 at shooting guard to take advantage of his size. What's an option? I prefer him playing more minutes at the 2 than him playing more minutes at the 3. So if we were going to try to take advantage of something, it would be him taking advantage of those smaller guards at the 2 for an extended duration of the game.
Yeah, and also, as crazy as it sounds, I wouldn't mind seeing a lineup of Brunson, RJ, Cam, Randall, and/or Obi, and iHeart. So not having Mitch hanging out in that paint, that's music to RJ's ears, you know. And the same thing for Randall. You know what, folks? SV Nation. RJ gets the ball at the top of the key. What's he doing? He's going left, driving the straight line into the hole. So, you know, Clyde Frazier always says everybody knows what he's going to do, but he's elite. Nobody can stop him. And that's really important. So we just need, as we talked about, RJ not only to finish better, but kick it out. We want to see more assists this year from that guy.
Yeah, definitely want to see an uptick in assists. So now, Foxy, let's jump right into the next young player we wanted to discuss. And we actually mentioned him quite a few times already, and that's going to be Quentin Grimes. And we're going to put on screen a player that a lot of people say he's the budget version of, and that's going to be Klay Thompson. Now, Klay, of course, he's about, 2 inches taller, 20 to 30 pounds heavier. I think you look at what Klay is able to do, the shooting numbers he's been able to display over the entirety of his career have just been amazing. So if Grimes is able to be 75%, 80% of the player that Klay is at the 25th pick in the first round, then he's going to be a major steal. So what are some of the things you've seen, some of the similarities you've seen between Quentin Grimes and Klay Thompson during their rookie season?
Tough players, you know, like you said, Klay, I don't think enough people, when you talk about the great shooters in the NBA over the last 10 or so years, that, you know, obviously Curry and a lot of people was like, well, what about Klay? Klay is an unbelievable shooter, and you could put up points with just a dribble or two. So, and that's a very similar thing to Grimes, that, you know, with this team, he has that gorgeous form, beautiful release from 3, and that's what we want to see. But as you can see right out of the chute, you know, we get back to the same thing, and it's important. You got to reinforce it. Look at his foul total percentage, folks. You know, he had a dip in, and I put the 3rd year. So not only we want to see what Grimes is going to do in the 2nd year, but we wanted to just see what these players did 1 year later. And you could just see. But again, the minutes, you know, we talked about Wiggins before. He got minutes because he was the number 1 pick in the draft. And that's the difference between him, you know, going 1 and going 10. You know, 1, you have to play him. So, but with Klay, he has that, you know, toughness. He has that beautiful release. We just want to see Klay, as you can see from the field goal percentage, you know, it's right there. And the 3-point percentage is a blink away. So, yeah, Grimes with good coaching and I absolutely see. Hey, like we said, he's a baby Clay. There's only one Clay, but he needs to up his game. We talked about getting to the hole and his midi game. So you just can't be a one-dimensional player in this league because they're so brutal. The defense, they'll charge. They'll drive you off that 3-point line and make you beat them another way.
Yeah, and we're starting to see Quentin Grimes start to work to expand his game in the summer league. We saw him try to put people off the dribble a little bit more. He was playing as a playmaker. He was able to find his teammates out there. He showed good vision, even though at times he missed plays here and there. But you saw some of the point guard skills that he had when he was entering college. One thing you do look at the stats, he's definitely going to have to increase the free throw percentage, something that you've been mentioning time and time again throughout this live stream. So we do want to see him get better, and you would assume he could be a much better free throw shooter, especially seeing what he can do from three. So we just have to see if that'll translate now to the charity stripe. Also, we're seeing here in some of these offensive, these off-season workouts, he's starting to go left a little bit more. But even if you look at his shot chart, he doesn't drive left, but he definitely loves the left side of the court. Looking at his shot chart.
Yeah, and a lot of the times because he gets the ball at the right, there's not really much he can't go right unless he goes into the baseline. So a lot of times he has to go left. But this is a great chart, folks. You see Grimes right now that he's three ball heavy. You don't see much anything else. And then you see a great player like Clay that keeps him honest, and you need to do that. Every player that if they know that you're going to drive, they're going to defend you a lot differently. So Clay at the hole, a little midi game, and obviously he's a 3-point assassin. So Grimes is a pup. And I definitely see him growing that way. And we saw not only him doing that in summer league, we saw some gorgeous passes, some pocket passes, some no-look passes. So he definitely has good instincts. So with the right development and obviously the right amount of minutes, we know he's going to be a dog on defense. So let him do his thing.
And another player you can kind of compare him to is Norman Powell. Similar height. I think Powell has longer reach than a Quentin Grimes, but you look at Norman Powell, he's a guy that can knock down the three. He's a player that can defend both twos and threes in this league, even though he's a smaller, I would call him a guard. I wouldn't really call him a wing, but tomato, I guess. So if you look at Quentin Grimes and a player that he could potentially be further on down the line, I think Norman Powell is someone you can definitely point to as someone he can try to emulate. He's a guy that doesn't need the ball in his hands to score. And when he does have the ball, he can create for himself off the dribble. So if that's something Grimes can add to his game, then we can see that there's players that are able to have success. And, Norman Powell, he ended up getting the bag after he was traded from Toronto to Portland. So he's another guy that was like a late bloomer. So we're seeing players around the league that, they didn't light the league on fire as soon as they got in, but they were able to develop their game and make themselves either legitimate starters or solid role players. So hopefully Quentin Grimes can follow a similar track to a Norman Powell and become somebody that you can see other teams try to bring in as a missing piece for their championship run.
Yeah, and as you can see, folks, Powell was the 16th pick in the second round, so he wasn't given the keys to the throne right off the bat. He had to earn that. Mm-hmm. But if you look at his second year, folks, 18 minutes, and you look at the 17-1 that Grimes played last year, it's virtually identical. The only difference, so he had 8.4 points, he had 6 points. You know what that difference was? Foul shooting. So 79% to 68%. That 11% or, a touch under, but we'll round it off and say 11%. That's the difference of him averaging the same amount of points per game.
And then I believe we have one more player that we can say is similar as a CJ McCollum, similar size, but he's another player that once he was able to get a bump in minutes per game, you definitely saw that increase in scoring and his ability to impact the game. Also, it seemed like he does better shooting the free throws when he gets more time out there. I guess that was something that he probably used to pay off the coaching staff for having faith in him. He said, all right, you're going to put me out there for 34 minutes. I'm going to knock down my free throws as a thank you. Yeah,
but you can see that he exploded. Some of these guys that we'll see, whether it was their third year or their fourth year, actually, they took off. So you can see he went from 15.7 minutes in the second year to 34. but look at the numbers on his shooting. Field goal percentage, 44.8, 41 on three, 82 from the foul line. So he went from 69.9, 70% to 82. So though that's the type of thing that we're asking. It's like, you know what? That's free shots, bro. That's the thing that we want. To take 1,000, 2,000 shots a day. We don't care. Get that for him. That's the difference, and CJ doesn't get enough credit. He is a mid-range assassin too. People don't realize how devastating CJ is. You have his shot chart?
I don't believe I have CJ's shot chart.
That's cool. No worries. But the whole thing, folks, if you look at his shot chart, the right by the basket and everything, that's lit up in the orange. So it's like, so he's not just hanging out at three. So those are really good players for him to watch their film, watch their game, emulate. But I love players from Houston. I love players from Villanova. I love they come out tough players. So I know, to play at Madison Square Garden, you have to be, wired a certain way. So that is toughness. And also, hey, we watched so many games last year. He was always like a last second option. They'd kick it out, not much on the shot clock, and he kicked it. How many times, folks, SV Nation, did you see them have a screen for him to come around for a curl? None. Maybe a couple out of a whole season. Let him, let there be design plays for him. And like we said, whether Mitch and everything, that gets everybody motivated, that they're not just looking at me being a dog on defense and just being a third option. If everyone, I'll kick it out, everyone's converging on me. Let me actually have a real shot every once in a while.
Yeah, everybody wants their number called. Let's see what else we got going on in the chat. East Blue Drew says, I want to see a big lineup with RJ, Cam, Grimes, Obi, and Mitch. That'd be an interesting lineup, especially if Grimes is continuing to work on his handle, which we've seen. And if he's going to be given some point guard opportunities, that would be a nice, a solid big guard, big wing lineup to throw out there and see how teams react.
Yeah, and we talked about that. That very well could be a second team lineup. And we've talked about that regardless of, who they're going to put, we may have one of the best second teams in the whole league. So I'm excited about that. Jalen stabilizing us on the first team. He's a sniper. I'm so excited about him bringing out the best, helping the development of our young core. And then on the second team, if D Rose is here, cool. If he's not, that's cool too, as we talked about. But we could have, like you said, an IQ, Grimes, Cam, Obi, iHeart. I could see them in transition. That would be an open, beautiful spacing type of lineup.
Yeah, facts. I'll see who. Mike Johnson says fire Tibbs in due time. Wild Dog.
Real quick. We keep looking at that schedule and just being realistic. No. I'm a homer. I don't think they can win that game. I don't think. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, that's 7 in a row. Oh, I hope that doesn't happen. But if it does happen, it's like, so long, Tommy.
Yeah, we've got to start, if I'm not mistaken, we've got to start 2-2. If we start 2-2, I can be comfortable. If we start 1-3, 0-4, I might have to start ringing the alarms, and I might get like a red alarm bell and just put it somewhere in the back, because it's going to be a very tense moment, I think, if we start the season off 1-3 or 0-4, because we don't have easy games following that first 4 or 5 game stretch.
Oh, they're brutal.
All right, so let's talk about another guard on the New York Knicks that I think is pretty polarizing, and that's going to be Emmanuel Quickley. Now, the comp that everybody goes to is going to be Lou Will. You can see what they were able to do in their first 2 years, and then we have Lou Will's 3 and 4, and we have Quick's projected year 3. So, Foxy, when it comes to the Lou Will and the IQ comparisons, what are some of the things you've seen from Quick that you could think that would make you say, all right, I think he can be a tier better than Lou Will? Because Lou Will's a solid player. He's definitely somebody that can come off the bench, give you some, points in bunches. He's been able to do that for the entirety of his career. But with Quick, I think a lot of fans view Quick as somebody that can be, a tier above. So what are some things you're looking for from Quick this season to see if he could be someone that could either be a long-time point guard option or someone that could actually be a legitimate starter in this league?
Yeah, it all starts at that field goal. We know he has the floater, but he has to get more of a midi game. He shot basically 40%, and we'll round it off. We'll give him the benefit of the doubt the first 2 years in league. and again, extrapolating the analytics said he'll shoot around 40. That's not good enough. Like we said, the league average is 46.1. So we'd like that to be a little higher. And you could see, even though he had a dip in his fourth year. Hey, by the way, I have 2, 3, 4 for Lou Will. A lot of people, you may not realize, he went from high school to the pros. So he virtually had no playing time in that first year. So I didn't think it was a good example. So I took a poetic license and I did a year 2, 3, and 4. So you could just see that on year 2 and year 3, you can't get it. That's really, really close, man. Their stats, and obviously he's a phenomenal foul shooter, but also to IQ's defense, he wasn't playing one position the whole time. He started off being able to square up because D Rose was penetrating and he was playing the 2, and you get those kickouts for a catch and shoot open, beautiful. And then they said, no, we want you to be a point guard. So he's trying to make those same shots on the move, and his percentages are not there. So he has to, if he doesn't show that he can bring up those field goal percentages this year, it's important. But whether, like we see with Lou Will and others like Anthony Simons on Portland and stuff, they didn't kick it to the fourth year. So the numbers are there. So I have a lot of faith in what we talked about a lot. He's a student of the game. So his smarts, I think he's going to be much more of a playmaker than Lou Will has been in his career. And I think he's a better defender than Lou Will has ever been in his career. He has this great, wingspan and everything else. He could pick you up 94 feet. So I really think this is going to be a breakout year for IQ. And I think, like we said, I want him to shoot around, at least 38. They're extrapolating, saying 36.7 this year, but I'd like him to shoot a little better. And obviously those floaters, and he has to take more middies, higher percentage shots. If he shoots slower than that, there's kids like the Quavian, Smith out of North Carolina. There's kids in this draft coming up that can shoot the lights out. And if that's, so I hope, IQ realizes that you can't be in this league shooting 39%. You're not going to have a long career or a lot of playing minutes.
Yeah, 39% is definitely something he's going to have to work on. I don't know if I'd go as high as, what did you say the league average was, 46%?
46.1 is the league average for field goal percentage.
Yeah, 46 might be a little bit too high to say he has to hit. Me, 45. I'd go with right around 44, 45.
Or like exactly like the first year, 44 for Lou Will and 42. Yeah, as long as there's a 4 before it.
Exactly. 39% is no bueno.
No threes is unacceptable.
Oh, yeah, because also when you're looking to the 46%, you've got a lot of people like Mitchell Robinson kind of bringing it in the opposite direction. Mitchell Robinson shooting 71%. He's bringing that field goal percentage, that average way up there, even though he doesn't take a lot. But I think 45 to 44% from the field would be a solid number for Quick. And also, like you mentioned, he is, I think, a more well-rounded player, plays better defense. He can facilitate. He can actually run the point. I think he can play point. I'm still on the fence as to whether or not he'll be a long-term point guard in the NBA, but I think he's proven by now that he can also play stints at point guard. He doesn't have to be a point guard where you're starting out there for 32, 36 minutes per game. But if you need him to come in 10, 15 minutes off the bench and cover the one, I think he's someone that has all the tools to do it. We saw last year in Summer League, he was given the opportunity to run point extensively. I think in Summer League, he was solid. The shooting percentages were still kind of off in Summer League. So that's kind of giving me some cause for concern, seeing that he had trouble shooting in Summer League, trouble shooting last season. So if he's able to be more efficient this year, I think, the sky's the limit for him. I mean, if he's able to go out there and, shoot 45% from the field, shoot 38, 39% from 3, there might be some conversations as to whether or not we should have him starting at the 2 and then RJ Barrett playing at the 3. So I'm excited to see what Quick can do. I think Lou Will's a phenomenal comparison. One thing about Lou Will when it comes to scoring, I think Lou Will's much better, I guess, 3-level scorer, if you want to call it. He's able to score from, a multitude of places out there on the court. And, you can see that here in the shot chart. For the most part, Quick's shots are from three or from that, floater area in the paint. And if you look at what Quick is able to, what Lou Will is able to do, he's able to get points from pretty much anywhere out there on the court. So if Quick is able to kind of, add to some of the places or add to some of his spots out there on the court where he can hurt teams, I think that'll definitely be major in his development as a young guard in the NBA.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know the amount of film that the opposing teams watch. And, you see that spot in the paint, that's almost all floaters. So when you look at Lou Will and you're like, yo, he's not as heavy on the three, but, if you're a defender, you're like, where is he going to shoot it? Is he going to shoot it here? Is he going to drive? So you're not laying back and say he's going to take the three, or he's just going to drive to the hole for a floater. So these, what we want IQ to do, we've been talking about the midi and for a while now, and not midi floaters. We want a classic mid-range jumper where he squares up good, form and lets it rip. So I definitely think that we'll see more of the Lou Will shot chart this year for IQ than historically what we've seen.
Yeah, one thing about when Quick with his middies, I'm still a little bit concerned as to whether or not his form really allows him to get enough space or to create enough space when he's shooting those mid-range jump shots, because he kind of has a low release point, I would say, where he starts from. So that's something I am going to keep an eye on to see if that gives him any trouble if he's ever trying to do any kind of stop and pops while he's trying to attack opposing defenses.
Great observation. Absolutely.
Another player we're going to compare Emmanuel Quickley to is Jordan Poole. He's a player we saw kind of take some leaps last season. He's a late first round pick. He was drafted, 28th overall. Look at Quick. He was drafted 25th overall. Are there any comparisons you're seeing from what the Golden State Warriors have been doing with Jordan Poole and that we can maybe apply to Quick over here with the Knicks?
Well, you can see that the numbers are really close. And obviously Poole has the advantage of playing with some other players that they're going to give him a much nicer open look than IQ, because they're worrying about, Clay or Stefan and stuff like that. But he came into his own. Poole, but like you said, he's a 28th pick in the first round. And if you look at, just the second year of Poole and everything, and you look at the first year, the numbers are close, man. Numbers are close. So there's absolute hope that we can, that he's going to become the player that we want, meaning IQ, obviously.
And another thing we're seeing is once these players are given opportunities, are given big bumps in minutes, they're rewarding their teams and their coaching staffs for it. We saw it with CJ McCollum. We didn't see enough of it with Norman Powell, but we're seeing it here again with Jordan Poole. You see the numbers go, minutes per game go from 19.4 to 30, and a lot of the efficiency is still there. And actually, it went up in each statistical department. It went up in field goal percentage, it went up in three-point percentage, and it also went up in free throw percentage. And that's one thing you are concerned about when it comes to young players and increasing their workload. And that's why a lot of people have issues with per 36, because if you increase the workload, you ask them to do more. Are they going to be able to keep up that high level of play, that high energy? And we're seeing it from guys like Jordan Poole. We've seen it from guys like CJ McCollum. And I think the coaching staff has to look at these things and say, all right, I think it's time for us to give players like Emmanuel Quickley that same faith and put them out there for extended minutes. And I think we're going to see that. There were reports that, Quickley is going to see some increased minutes. I believe it was Ian Bagley who reported it. And I think those are good signs. Those are some things that we should be happy to hear, especially when we have a head coach like a Tom Thibodeau who has been stuck in his ways and playing the vets. And, I think a lot of fans looked at what was done last season and said it was a mistake to not play Emmanuel Quickley or a guy like Obi Toppin extended minutes throughout the season. So hopefully those are going to be remedied this year, and guys like Emmanuel Quickley are going to be given an opportunity to see if they can increase some of their efficiency just by being more so in the flow of the game, by getting more minutes and being allowed to get more time to get into rhythm.
Yeah, and the one thing that you, me, and the SV Nation love is that with him still finding himself from day one, he's been a low turnover percentage type of player. Real smart, not crazy on, he's not a high turnover type of guy. And you love that especially a guy playing point, but a guy in a playmaking position that he's smarts. And we saw him on the sideline, with the iPad with the young guys, not only on both, but on both sides, telling him positionally, you should be here on defense or on the offense. So I love that. He has a real leadership element to him. And I've mentioned this before. I would not be surprised in 15 years he's a coach in the NBA IQ.
Wouldn't surprise me either. I mean, seems like he might want a little bit more of a glamorous job, though. Seems like he likes the social media. All right, another player we want to compare Emmanuel Quickley to is CJ McCollum. And I think this is a nice comparison because you look at CJ McCollum, he's another combo guard. He has a similar frame to Emmanuel Quickley. I think Quickley has a longer wingspan, but you look at CJ, he's a player that can play the two, but also he can handle point guard responsibilities. If I'm not mistaken, down in New Orleans, he's been handling a lot of the point guard responsibilities out there. He was able to play opposite of a high usage player in a Damian Lillard, and we would hope Quick could develop to be able to be efficient and effective next to high usage players like an RJ Barrett or even, Jalen Brunson. So Foxy, what are some comparisons you've seen between Emmanuel Quickley's game and his career so far that you would compare to CJ McCollum's first 3 years in the NBA?
You could see in that third year that other than the minutes, you can see the rebounds, he's getting as many rebounds in like 24 minutes than he gets, in almost an assist than he gets in 34 minutes. So those other elements that Tibbs is always talking about that you want to see players, add to the team. If you're not hitting your shot, at least you're rebounding, you're doing assists, you're playing defense. So CJ's real smart. I love players that work at their craft and understand, watch a hell of a lot of film and just get better. So, and again, you could see from year 2 to 3, like we said, doubled over 2x the amount of minutes CJ had. So, and us just keeping it real at 24 minutes, I don't even know if IQ can get 24 minutes on this team with the logjam we have right now.
Yeah. Also, once again, we see the increase in minutes, but you've got CJ McCollum who increased his field goal percentage, his 3-point percentage, and also his free throw percentage. So I know a lot of these comparisons are necessarily apples to apples, but even if they're apples to oranges, you can at least see examples where other players were able to see increased workloads and still be out there and be efficient. So that's what we're hoping with some of these young guys. We want to see an increased role, but we want to see them continue to be efficient and take that next step in their career. So Foxy, anybody you want to shout out from the chat? I just cracked a couple jokes with Greg.
East Blue Drew, EBD, hope all is well. Bricks Nation, Sherwin, hope all is well with you and your family. Westchester Legend, Greg. Let's see. We already said hi to DBR. Hey, Worldwide L gave you a shout out earlier for the love of the game, folks. Again, please subscribe to my friend, good old chef, Geraldine MacGyver. Geraldine, hope all is well in North Carolina. And again, J Money, hope all is well. And again, as we said early in the show, we're just putting out a lot of prayers to everybody that we know for our friends in Puerto Rico for Hurricane Fiona.
Facts. Let's see. East Blue Drew says, I say Tyrese Maxey is more IQ. I mean, yeah, there are comparisons there, but the only thing with Maxey is he came into the league the same time as Emmanuel Quickley. So we wanted to pull up players that have already had some years in the game so we can see what they did in a similar year. So like from year 2 to year 3 or year 3 to year 4, things like that. With Maxey, it'd be the same exact thing as Quick. Year 2 to year 3?
Yeah, but also, folks, he's playing with one or more elite players. That changes everything. It changes everything. Then, we've never had a player of that level of an Embiid and even Tobias Harris, but, Harden was there and, it's it's a lot easier for you to be rock and roll with your game if everyone's concentrating on elite some of your teammates are elite. So Quick didn't have that luxury.
Yeah. I mean, even though he didn't have that luxury, though, there's been some similar production between the two. One thing I want to put on screen As you can see, with games with 30 plus minutes played, they're not averaging too much. The averages aren't that far apart. You look at Emmanuel Quickley, he's averaging 18.8 points per game when playing over 30 minutes. Tyrese Maxey, he's averaging 17.5. You look at the assists, averaging 4.8 for Quick, you got 4.3 for Maxey. And then when it comes to rebounds, Emmanuel Quickley has been a solid rebounding guard throughout his time with the New York Knicks. So he's averaging 4.8 rebounds in those situations, whereas you only have 3.2 from a Tyrese Maxey. And like you said, Fox, Tyrese is doing that in an easier environment, I would say. Maybe not necessarily with dealing with the fans, but in terms of the players he's out there on the court with, they make his life a lot easier than some of the guys we see out there on the court with Emmanuel Quickley. So anything you want to mention about this quick comparison before we move to the next player?
They're very similar players. And I think they went through the same thing that Higgins was actually the point guard that they played, over there. So they came into the league, both of them not as quote unquote point guards, but they weren't given that opportunity at Kentucky. So, and so they're learning on the job here. And so their numbers are really, really close. And, we talked about this X amount of weeks ago that Donovan Mitchell never had a triple-double in his career, and he only has 7 double-doubles in his whole career. And IQ already has 4 double-doubles and 2 triple-doubles. I'm not saying IQ is Donovan Mitchell, but I'm saying that from being effective for a team, and I've said this before, I'm not going to back off it, that, you give IQ 21 shots like you give Donovan Mitchell, IQ will average 20 points a season.
You keep running with that, Foxy. I won't say you're wrong, but I don't know.
Well, it's math. He's shooting 40%, so that means he's going to make 8 shots. 8 times 2 is 16, throwing a couple of three-pointers and foul shots. It's a math thing. So if he's shooting 40% field goal percentage and he's taking 21 shots the math says he's going to score 20 points.
Well, not when you put it like that way. I see where you're coming from.
Don't mess with a Jew with math.
I won't go there. All right, Foxy. So let's get into the next player, and that's going to be.
Hey, just Obi one other Toppin. Thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
For IQ folks, he was a different player after the All-Star game, IQ, than he was before the All-Star game. So I think there's a whole lot of reason for hope for us to think about that. At the beginning of the season before that All-Star game, he was averaging 9.4 points per game and was shooting 32% from 3 and 36% foul, a field goal percentage and 91% from the line. But after the All-Star game, that's where, I think we saw a lot more of the player. That's where he averaged 16 points a game, 5.2 rebounds, 4.8 assists, 43.6. That's the number that Keith and I were just talking about for field goal percentage. He shot 38%. So he's shooting. Thank you. Beautiful. Look at that post All-Star, folks, last year. So there's a whole lot of reason for hope. Like we were saying, if he shoots that numbers in mid 40s, like he said, he's shooting, above 38% is above 3-point. And we know he's a sniper from the free throw line. That's somebody who's going to be an important part of our foundation going forward.
Yeah, hopefully we see more of Quick and his post All-Star form. That was when he was given a little bit more freedom to operate out there. Some of the guys got hurt, so he was given the reins. And I liked a lot of what I saw. That's when we saw a lot of the triple doubles. And, some people will say, hey, that's during the garbage time. It's not really him going up against elite competition. But at the end of the day, these people are in the NBA. They're getting paid to go out there and perform. And you can only do you can only go up against what's in front of you. And he was solid in those minutes. He could have very easily been performed terribly in those situations, but he didn't. He stepped up. He was a solid player. As you can see, the field goal percentage was a lot closer to what you would have liked, the 43.6, 3-point percentage, close to 40%. Those are some of the numbers that we really like to see from Quick, and it gives us some hope that we can actually see that at the start of this season if he's just given those opportunities. So it leaves Knicks fans with some encouragement. And as we've been saying time and time again, it's all going to fall down on the coaching staff to be able to put these players in the right positions for them to succeed.
And God willing, we saw after the post, you see that 27.5 minutes per game. So if we can get him at least at 24, we know, there's a good shot he could be in that vicinity on those shooting numbers.
Facts. So with that being said, let's get into the last player we're going to be discussing tonight, and that'll be Obi Toppin. Now, this comparison is kind of close to home. One of my favorite players of that era is Amari. You look at Amari, he was drafted in the first round, the 9th pick overall. You look at Obi, he was drafted in the first round, the 8th pick overall. Now, there are some comparisons with the two players in terms of their athleticism. But one thing I can say is Amari at this point in their careers, which would be entering into year 3, I think he was a more physical player at that time. And I think he also was a better shooter, I would say. Was a better scorer at the moment. And you would like to see Obi do some of the things that we saw Amari out there when he was with the Phoenix Suns. Foxy, anything that you've seen between Obi and Amari during their first 2 seasons in the league?
Yeah, just visually, a lot of people when he came out of Dayton is like, man, he reminds me of Amari. Folks, Amari was there's no doubt that Amari was a 4 in this league. The problem we've had with Obi is that even though he's 6'9", he doesn't, he has a big upper body, but he doesn't have much of a base. He's real thin down there, and it's very difficult for him to hold spots. Amari never had that. And the weird part in his first 3 years, you know who Amari's point guard was, folks? Stephon Marbury.
Oh, Marbury, you're right. And then we ended up coming over here.
Yeah, so Marbury was actually the guy on where he was doing the role on the pick and roll with Marbury. And I have an asterisk by 3-pointers because it was, when the dinosaurs roamed, Amari literally, I don't know if he was taking even one 3-pointer in the first 3 years. That's why the numbers, I have an asterisk there. They don't really mean anything because the sample size was too little. But you can see on the foul shooting, but he got a lot more minutes. But you can see Obi is a scoring machine. Even in little minutes, he puts up numbers. So, if you double the numbers, obviously Amari was a special guy. I think there's a lot of similarity. And like you said, one's an 8th pick, one's a 9th pick. But, I have a lot of faith in Obi, man. It's going to come down to minutes, so it bugs me. It aggravates me. And again, folks, as Keith said, I took the number of my wife laughed and says, "Are you solving for X?" I was like, "Yeah, algebra. I'm glad I took algebra." But so I broke it down to 18 minutes because even 18 minutes, I don't know. That's a stretch that Obi will even get 18 minutes on this team this season. And that's a crime, and that's on the front office because it's development. If you can't give this young man or some of the other young men the minutes to develop, then it's on the front office. If you already said, hey, Julius is our guy, then you should have, taken Halliburton, you schmuck. It's crazy. You made an investment and that you're not capitalizing it because you're not giving him the minutes. But Obi has gotten better every year he's played. And all he needs is minutes, but also, like we said, of a backcourt, whether it's D Rose, IQ, Cam, Obi, and iHeart, or if it's IQ, Grimes, that'll be showtime, man. Those guys are going to be incredible in transition. So I'm looking forward to it.
Also, we have a quick comment from Greg. He's saying, Keith, do you know anything on Jericho Sims' broken left hand injury? I didn't know he had a hand injury. I just went online and I went to a real GM and it looked like he's got a bandaged up left hand. I wonder what's going on.
No, maybe you saw Nate Diaz. I don't know. It's the first I'm hearing of it.
Yeah, I'm looking at it on YouTube right now. He's it seems like Jericho Sims and Farron Hunt are pretty friendly. They're all over the city together.
Well, they know they're going to have a lot of time on their hands because they ain't going to be playing. and chill out, man.
Right.
And I'm surprised McBride ain't with them, too, because that's another dude that's just not going to get any burn this year. And it breaks my heart, but, it's just there's just no room. We have a super chat.
Yep, we do. This one is from Wild Dog. Salute to Super Chat. Appreciate the Super Chat. He says, more up-tempo players on the team now. Tibbs has no idea how to work that. We all right with our players minus JR, which would be Julius Randle. That's facts. That's a fact. Thank you, Wild Dog, for the Super Chat. And I don't disagree. I think if you look at this squad, we do have a lot of pieces that fit together. They're able to get out on the open, get up in transition, move up and down the court with some speed. And we saw last season when Quick was running things, he was able to move the ball up the court with some pace. He was able to find Obi in transition. I'm excited to see how he'll look out there with Cam in transition. Cam himself is another guy that can help start the break, with steals, deflections, things like that. You look at RJ Barrett. He's someone that can get up and down the court. So we have a nice young squad that's athletic enough for us to run with other teams. And if we go up against an older squad, I think we can run them out the gym.
Yeah, and that's why, Tibbs has been known to have his, a team that's in excellent condition, but he has to cut down on those extra practices and all those other things. Because how many times have we over the last couple of years said, wow, did you see, an old thing is when you see players hitting the front of the rim, that means their legs are tired. And so a lot of times, like, man, I think they're running. Tibbs got to give some of these guys some rest. So, he's an old dog, Tibbs. I don't know if he's going to learn new tricks, but we lost a lot of games in the fourth quarter last year because we couldn't close because we didn't have legs. So something has to come out of that. So we can have a much better team, and it's a luxury. If somebody gets a little pissed off that they're playing 30 minutes rather than 35 minutes, you know what? You shouldn't be pissed off because you're going to be playing. You're not going to be huffing and puffing in the last 5 minutes of a game because your legs are fresher because somebody else got some burn besides you. It's a team thing. Everybody should be happy, man.
That's a Snapple fact. All right, so Factor, let's get back into Obi. Another comparison I wanted to get into was Obi and Aaron Gordon. You see Aaron Gordon, first round pick. He was drafted 4th overall. And we're looking at Aaron Gordon because he's another guy, somewhat similar frame. And you look at what he was able to do in year 3 after he was able to get a bump in minutes. And we saw an increase in points per game, also an increase in assists. Shooting percentages went down, and he's not a great 3-point shooter, but the free throw percentage shooting was there. So what are some comparisons you can point to between Obi and Aaron Gordon when they entered the league? Well, in year 3.
I like looking at that year 1 of Gordon, that year 2. They both played 17 minutes, and you could see, the numbers are really, really close. And I'd love Obi to be in more, whether a pinch post or more situations. He's a better passer. He just hasn't gotten the opportunity, Obi. So it's very, very close. And one was the 4th pick in the draft. So the numbers are there, man.
Yeah, somebody says it looks like they're hanging out down south. They're not even in New York. I know they bumped into somebody on Twitter and signed somebody's sneakers. I know that much. Let's see what else we got going on.
Who's hanging out down south?
I would assume it's Farron and and Sims. I'm sorry, I was in the chat. Apologies. Sherwin says Gordon is about 240. Obi is 200. Yeah, like I said, a lot of these comparisons aren't necessarily apples to apples. We're just looking at other players that played the position, and we saw increases in the year these guys are entering. So, for example, Obi, he's coming into year 3, and we're looking at Aaron Gordon because he got a bump in playing time in year 3 and he was able to make the most of it. So of course, a lot of these aren't going to be necessarily the exact or the best comparisons in terms of play styles. We're just looking at other players in their careers at similar points in their careers as some of our young guys to see if this is a opportunity where we can see them take, big steps.
Yeah, and you could see Gordon's 3-point percentage his first 3 years was, abysmal, man.
Jakes, I'm not going to glass.
Yo, we're brothers.
We're brothers. We're happy and we're singing multicolored. Da-da-da-da.
Oh, I love hanging with you in the SV Nation. Hey, Sunday nights, where's the place to be?
Somebody outside didn't like that.
Wait, is my dog barking again? Holy, hey, come on, man.
No, somebody outside honking. I don't know why. All right, let's see. So we have another player another comparison we wanted to get into. Let me put it on stream. And that's going to be Pascal Siakam. So another 4 in the league, drafted a little bit later on in the first round, 27th pick overall. And you can see in year 3, he was given an opportunity to get an increase in minutes, going from 20.7 minutes per game to 31.9, and with that opportunity he doubled his points per game, averaged almost 7 rebounds per game, 3.1 assists, and he shot 54% from the field, 36% from the 3-point line, and almost 80% from the charity stripe. So Foxy, any comparisons between Pascal and Obi that you want to point out?
I just think if you give Obi the same amount of minutes, you look in that middle of the year, 117, year 2, and he had 20 minutes. Obi's numbers, 53-50, shot a little better from 3, shot better from, so Obi's there, man. Obi's absolutely there. One of the things that you'll see though on that we're hoping for Obi this year is you look at Siakam. Say it for me, please.
Siakam.
Siakam. I'm having a brain fart. That he does a lot more middies, pull-ups and a lot more mid-range jumpers. So that's what we want from Obi. That we never understood why when he first came in here he was putting up as many threes as he did. We know he's a monster in transition. But this is the year that we want him to start taking a lot more shots in the paint. That not necessarily getting to the hole, but just pulling up and doing the nice sweet jumper.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what Obi can do in year 3. I'm extremely excited. We were able to bring up a few players that saw bumps in performance in year 3, but no matter what we show you on screen, this is all going to come down to whether or not Tom Thibodeau is going to actually give Obi the minutes to succeed. So we can't see him get the same 17 minutes. He's definitely not going to get the 31.9 we see from Pascal Siakam, but could we see anywhere around 24, 25 minutes? I think that would be a solid starting point in the season. And based on how Obi and Julius Randle plays, maybe we can start changing or tweaking that as the season goes on. I would love it if at some point Obi were to supplant Julius Randle as the starter, but I just don't think that's too likely. So as long as he's getting some decent minutes to help develop his game and also showcase some of his talent, because we've shown you 5 young guys on this team that we think could, take major steps moving forward in this season. But at the end of the day, these are also players that could be trade pieces. So I want them to be put in the best position to succeed. So even if we are, shopping some of these guys, at least the look
value,
their value and how the other teams in the league perceive them is much better than what we're seeing right now. Maybe that might have been the hiccup in getting a deal done for Donovan Mitchell. So maybe next time we're in that position, if these guys are getting more minutes, they're getting better, they're actually being given the opportunity to develop, then when we're at that table to discuss trades for another key piece, then they'll at least hold a little bit more value.
Yeah, a lot of people, it's like, Randall, they get down on Randall, but he's a really good player, man. A really good player, and the ball loves his hands. He's an elite defensive rebounder.
The ball loves his hands because he comes to the ball. What do you mean?
But he's the type of guy that you wake up and you think about the game and you're like saying, well, all right, I'll put down right off the bat Randall 2010. And that's that second part with Obi, that we need him to be a better rebounder. And with with those rockets in his feet, you'd think he'd be more of a shot blocker, but he's not. So if we want to trade Randall and we need him to be a lot more of a rebounder, or rebound more than he has in the past.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see what we have going on in chat. Jim Smith says Sims is hurt. Yeah, it seems like he's hurt. He's got his hand bandaged. They haven't really released anything, but it appears that much.
Yeah, and this is a quote from Mark Berman. He said, the key with Obi is always going to be understanding defensive concepts. And this is Mark Berman talking to a personnel director, an anonymous one. So he said, the key with Obi is always going to be understanding defensive concepts. The personnel director said, being able to be reliable to Tibbs his ability to improve in that area and be a guy that Tibbs can trust will increase his playing time. They need him to do that because they need that offense. So, we said it on Knox a couple of years ago. We said it about Cam a few minutes ago, and it ends the same thing with Obi. If he wants that playing time, any hope of getting minutes, it's going to have to be on the defensive side. If he doesn't feel he knows he's going to be a monster and have great highlight dunks and stuff like that, but if he doesn't feel comfortable on the defensive side, he's just not going to get the minutes. He has to ball out.
Berman is killing me with these defensive quotes, because the first quote was about who was it? Cam and getting minutes defensively, but yet the person blocking Cam from getting minutes is Evan Fournier, who plays no defense. And now we're hearing it about Obi, and he's not understanding the defensive concept. Well, the only defensive concept Julius Randle knows is to turn around and blame somebody else. So it's not like Julius Randle is excelling as a defender. So if Julius Randle can be a subpar defender and get 35, 36 minutes in a game, as long as Obi Toppin's putting effort in there and trying to make some stops defensively, he should be able to get 24, 25.
With you. I'm with you. But I think if he's going to get 24 or 25, the only way that's going to happen, especially getting iHeart, meaning now that you have iHeart on the defensive side for spacing and stuff like that, it's going to be special times. They're going to go to a smaller lineup, maybe using a Randle at the 5 and Obi at the 4, stuff like that. But they're going to have to move Randle if Obi's going to have over 20 minutes a game. I don't see anywhere else. One of the SV Nation brought up earlier in the stream that, put him at the 3. I just don't see Obi playing the 3 in this league.
Yeah, I don't see Julius Randle playing at the 5 either, because you went and you spent $8-9 million on iHeart, so he can be that floor spacer. Because you would put Julius Randle at the 5, right? Because Julius Randle, he can knock down the outside shot occasionally, so that you'd think that would help you with some floor spacing. But now that we have iHeart in any of those situations, as long as he's healthy, I would just throw him out there, and then you can put somebody else out there at the 4, whether that be Julius Randle, Obi, or even at times Cam. I think Cam can get minutes at the 4 if we're unable to get him some playing time at the 3. So.
But you never know. We had a good season with Mitch last year where he stayed, no catastrophic injuries. He just had some nagging injuries that took him out of some games. But if he can't play and Hartenstein is pushed up, then there may be scenarios where what we just talked about, his first season, the second season, Randle, because he got hurt the first season, he played a lot of 5 for the Lakers. So we'll see. But there is hope for Obi, folks. Very similar to what we said earlier with IQ. It was 2 different guys, pre All-Star game and post All-Star game. But again, he played 23 minutes post All-Star game versus 15, which is Obi average. And I think that got bloated because of the injury, but where he played a lot more minutes, but he averaged 16.5 minutes for the season. So, he scored 14 after the All-Star. Thanks. Perfect. Thank you. Perfect timing that you could see a tale of 2 different seasons, man. He got more minutes, and then all of a sudden 56.6. That's magnificent. 40.8. Yeah, that's the gold. So right now he's on the gold standard, and 77.8 from the foul line in 23 minutes, 4.2 rebounds. That's nice, man. And that's impressive. So I think he's going to get better this year, but it all depends on Tibbs. It all depends on this front office, because I don't think he's going to be able to math-wise get 23 minutes unless they make some other moves.
Yeah, definitely have to make some additional moves. But if he is able to get to a point where he's able to play 30 minutes plus per game, he had a solid showing last season. He averaged 21.4 points per game in those situations, 7.7 rebounds per game, 4.9 assists per game. That's one thing people point out with Julius Randle. He's able to get a lot of assists from the 4 spot. I think Obi Toppin, he's been a solid passer as well when given an opportunity. He shot 62% from the field, which is phenomenal for a guy that has taken some, does take some outside shots occasionally. He does a lot of dunks and things of that nature, but it's not like Obi doesn't put up any jump shots. So for him to shoot 62%, I think that's phenomenal. You look at the 3-point percentage, 40.4%. So he's over a 40% 3-point
shooter. It's a dream come true. Yeah, if he could hit 40%, then that's a stretch four, folks.
And then at the free throw percentage, he's averaging 93.2%. So he's checking off all the boxes when he's actually given minutes to to play. But until then, we're going to continue to have these question marks as to what Obi Toppin could be here in the league.
Exactly.
Let's see if we have any other comments in the chat. It says, with iHeart, Randall, and Tibbs here, Obi's not going to get 20-plus minutes per game. Exactly what you've been saying, Foxy, which is unfortunate because you can see when he's given an opportunity to play, he's an extremely talented player. It's just the fact that we have the logjam. We invested in Julius Randle. He's going to be here for, at least the next 4 years, barring any type of trade. And if he's not going to be given any opportunity at the 4, I don't think he's a versatile enough player to be given minutes at the 3 or the 5. So we're going to have to come at some point to a decision. Who are we going to move forward with this franchise? Will it be Julius Randle or will it be Obi Toppin?
Yeah, and it bothers me that we're a week or so away from training camp and we're talking about these issues. I was hoping that Donovan, that's done. That's in the rearview mirror, but we have some other issues with this roster, with log jams and getting the minutes and stuff like that so the players can develop. We don't see the movement like that. We don't want to. So is this going to happen now at the trade deadlines if there are movement? I was hoping that there was something before. And obviously, Randall's is a fine player. If he can keep his head right, he's a very, very good player. And like I've always said, you don't make second team All NBA a couple of years ago by luck. You just don't. You're a great player. So if he can get his head right, but then if he gets his head right, then we have to trade Obi. And the reality is, everybody knows I love the draft and stuff like that. With the roster we have, I don't think we can make a draft choice this year. You can't have that many kids. I think with all these assets, we have to go after another star. And obviously it's not going to be Mitchell, but Booker or we have to get another star. I don't think you could add another kid, another couple of, forget about it. We have 2 picks. I can't see us picking 2 more kids for this team. You? East?
Yeah, I'm not going to say I don't see us making a draft pick in 2023. I would just think that there would be a major move before we do make any type of selection. Because as you mentioned, that point guard, we've got a logjam. I mean, maybe if they find a solid point guard to back up Jalen Brunson because Derrick Rose won't be here, maybe that might be an option. But if you look at the 2, we already got a logjam there. I mean, you look at the future of our team at that position, it's going to either be Quick or Grimes. You look or RJ, depending on what happens at the 3. You look at the 3, it's going to be RJ. Actually, no, let me take that back. If we can find a solid wing in the 2023 draft at our wherever we draft, you said what we're projected to 12th and 27 or 23.
12th right now. They're projecting 12th for the Dallas pick 23. The Pistons pick we have is a top 18 protected, and the Wizards pick is a top 14 protected.
Yeah, so if we're able to get a big wing in the draft, I see us making that selection because Cam, he could be leaving. Farron Hunt, he's not necessarily a player that I see stepping up and becoming a starter on this squad. So that's definitely a position I think we could try and bring in some pieces. But I mean, you look at some of the young guys we have. If we had to make a move in order to accommodate another young player coming in 2023, I think we can do that deal. Quick is on a reasonable contract. Obi's on a reasonable contract. I don't see them trading Grimes because they seem like they're in love with him. But he's somebody that they can move on a reasonable contract. So I think they'd still go out and draft a player. And if they have to, you're going to lose Cam, and maybe they trade somebody else if they need to kind of reset the money.
Yeah. Derrick Whitehead out of Duke, Cam Whitmore out of Villanova. are some of the top wings. And what we learned from last year is that if they have the seasons that I think they're going to have this year, we couldn't get Jaden Ivey last year with all the capital we had. So those teams, it's going to be very difficult if we're at 12 to try to trade up, even though we have up the.
I never said we have to trade up. If somebody falls to us, we don't. I'm not saying we have to star hunt in the draft. I'm saying we just have to get a wing to replace Cam because we really wouldn't have anybody to back up RJ.
Yeah, and that one in my, the one that I'm looking at 12 right now that I think will be available is a kid named Jordan Walsh out of Arizona. 6'7", 7'3" wingspan, has real nasty, can shoot, and he's playing on a loaded team with Nick Smith, Anthony Black at Arkansas. So if he's available, if we're picking and Jordan Walsh is there and has the season I think he's going to have, there's a kid out of Tennessee, Justin Phillips, that I really like a lot. So there's a lot of wings that I'm watching early that I've watched McDonald's All-American, Nike, Jordan Classic, high school tapes and stuff like that. So there's a couple that would absolutely meet what we're looking for the future. But again, you pick a kid like that, it's going to take 2 or 3 years. And I don't know if we'd have team.
This front office might not have 2 or 3 years, but I think if you look at this roster, we can give it 2 or 3 years to mature.
I'm with you all the way. I'm with you all the way on that. I'm patient, especially I think, hey, we have a very nice, we just went over players that we have a very nice foundation. And if you look at, the players that we compared them to, it's like, we're in the vicinity there. If they get the minutes and they get the development, we have a fine team. Now we just have to, augment this team with an elite player or two, with athleticism. But that's all we need. Is I don't know if they'd have the money and everything to go after Wiggins as a free agent next year, as the 3 of our futures, having a Brunson, RJ, Wiggins, Obi.
That's why you don't want us to draft anybody in 2023. You want us to just go sign Wiggins. I knew something was up. There's no way, Foxy, that we don't have any big wings on this team is decide to say, all right, we're going to forego the 2023 draft. It's because you have your eye on Andrew Wiggins. I know it.
This is like Loadout. I did it. Somebody to the electric chair. I admit it. So I like Wiggins, but I like Mikal Bridges more than I like Wiggins, actually. And I don't think, seriously, he's a much better shooter. He's a great defender. I don't think he'll be as costly, but I don't think they'd give up Wiggins. I don't think they'd ever trade Mikal Bridges.
Yeah. I mean, hey, they've been talking about Julius Randle. If we can swindle them, I'm all with the swindle.
If we can do that, I have no problem taking Cam Johnson back, though, as a shooting power forward, and then, the backup Obi. So having a 4 of getting rid of Randle and having Obi as our starting 4 with Cam Johnson, with his great shooting as his backup, go from there.
Foxy, if we call Phoenix right now and ask them to trade Julius Randle for Mikal Bridges, they're hanging up. If we tell them to add Cam Johnson on top, they might go file a grievance and say, hey, these guys are trying to cheat.
That is like, you must have some good strains at the dispensary by you.
Right.
Because I don't know what the hell you smoking. We wouldn't do that trade in a million years.
Ever.
So,
that'd be hilarious. That's one of those 2K trades. But
yeah.
Foxy,
folks,
go ahead.
We have 117 people in the chat. We have 75 likes. Keith and I tell you every week with the algorithm with YouTube, if you can, please, we'd love to hit that 100 likes. So please hit that like. It takes you a second. We really, really appreciate it. If you subscribe, thank you so much. Please tell a friend to tell a friend. If you haven't subscribed, you can tell that we put a lot of work into this. So please, it's the one-stop shop for all Knicks news, rumors, and analysis. Please turn on that all reminder bell so you don't miss out on any of the wonderful content. Please share the link on your favorite social media platforms. Shout out to the replay gang. If you can't catch it live, please, we answer all your questions. We love chopping it up with you. And last but not least, shout out to Justin L., Lex the Destroyer, Adele Chapman, kisses to Avery, Canel Ban Lawyer, Julian Blum, John Talento, Jesco, the Wrench Mob. We appreciate all you do.
It seemed like the system kind of tweaked for a second while you were giving your final monologue. Can you hear me?
Should I do it again?
No, you're good. You're good. It kind of threw me off for a second. I said, "Whoa, what's going on?" computer gremlins. You know how that goes. But thank you everybody for tuning in. We greatly appreciate your support. We had a solid stream. Been on here for about an hour and 50 minutes talking about, some of the young guys on this squad and what to expect from them moving forward. Once again, a lot of these comparisons are not exact in terms of like archetypes and things like that. We're just looking at what other players around the league did in the same year that some of our young guys are entering, and just to see that these guys can take the next step. It's something that has happened throughout the league for other players entering similar years, and if they are able to take the next step, I think it's gonna really expedite, I think, our window of being legitimate contenders in the NBA. And I think right now that's what we should be preparing for as a fan base, looking at what young guys are going to be key pieces to our future, and also what guys could potentially be trade pieces to help us get to the end goal. So Foxy, before we sign off, anything else you want to say?
Yeah, like you said, it's not an exact science, but we wanted to give you ballparks. But the one thing that we both come out of this, and hopefully the SV Nation, is hope. I'm so glad we didn't make the trade. I think we have a really, really good, like we said, I think we have the best second team in the NBA and everything else. And I, folks, with everybody, we were 11th in defense last year. So I absolutely think we're going to be a much better defensive team, especially as we're talking, if they go by the analytics, that Fournier is not going to be on that, Fournier will just be a spot player, come on every once in a while, play Cam and play everybody else. But one stat, I shared this with Keith, that in the lab this week, folks, last season, Kemba led the Knicks with 25 charges drawn, and Alex Burks was second with 23. Jalen Brunson drew 44 charges last year. He was 7th in the league during the regular season. He was 2nd in the league in the playoffs in drawing charges. He's a dog. So I think we're going to be okay on the defensive side. It's just us being the 22nd team in offense last year that we have to build on. And Keith and I talked about that, using Dallas as something. Dallas was the 15th best team in offense, and we can go from 22nd down to 15 and then be like a top 7 team in defense. Anything could happen if we play New York rough, hard-nosed defense, physical, smart, move that ball, move those players, basketball.
Thank you for that, Foxy. From your lips to Tom Thibodeau's whiteboard, whatever they want to call it in his office, because it's all going to be on Tom Thibodeau. He has the pieces. He has to put them in the right position to succeed. He has to draw up the plays. We're not seeing enough cutting from some of these guys, and we have phenomenal players that can cut in Obi and Cam. We talked about the, coming off curls, coming off screens for catch and shoot situations. We really don't see any of that. Meanwhile, we have some players that I think could excel in those areas, in Grimes, Quick, even I think Jalen Brunson at times. So hopefully Tibbs is going to realize that this may be his last opportunity to coach in the NBA, and this is not the time for him to say it's my way or the highway. He needs to compromise a little bit and put some of the young guys in. So with that being said, thank you guys for tuning in. We greatly appreciate it. We got to 86 likes. We didn't get to 100, but thank you guys for trying so hard. We'll probably get there with the replay. Thank you to the replay stream, to the replay squad for tuning in. You guys really help push the streams post live, I guess, if you want to call it that. So thank you for your continued support. We greatly appreciate it, and you guys make all the work we put in behind the scenes worth it. So with that being said, I'd like to say thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, Keith, joined as always by my co-host and analyst, Stephen Fox, and till next time.
Love you.